The ship groaned as it cut through the endless black of space, the stars around it shining like distant diamonds. Tom, the human engineer, sat at the controls of his small starship, his hands steady on the wheel. He had been traveling for hours, on his way to a routine maintenance job at a nearby mining colony. Everything was going according to plan. Until it wasn't. A sharp jolt ran through the ship. Alarms blared in his ears, and the controls flickered. He quickly reached for the console, eyes wide, as he saw the warning lights flash. Hyperdrive malfunction. Core systems failing. Ejecting escape pods. Before he could react, the ship's systems shut down completely, and in a flash, everything went dark. Tom gritted his teeth. Not now, he muttered to himself, slamming his fist on the console in frustration. He had always been meticulous with his ship's maintenance, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The sudden jolt had thrown him off course, and he was now drifting toward an unknown part of space. He tried to restart the ship's systems, but the cold metal under his fingers told him everything he needed to know. There was no power. The thrusters had died. The lights went dim, and soon he was in complete darkness. With a sigh, Tom grabbed his emergency supplies and unbuckled himself from the seat. His breath formed small clouds of vapor in the cold air. As he glanced at the control panel, he noticed something that made his stomach drop: his location. His ship was now entering the atmosphere of a nearby moon, a barren, icy world that had never been explored by humans. The chances of survival here were slim, especially with the damage to his ship. Guess this is where the adventure ends, Tom thought, trying to keep his nerves in check. He pulled on his thermal suit, hoping it would be enough to protect him from the harsh cold of the moon. He had just enough time to send out a distress signal before the ship's power completely failed. The communication system crackled to life, and Tom quickly sent out a distress beacon. But there was no way to know how long it would take for anyone to respond. His ship was stuck on a freezing moon, and he was alone. He had no choice but to make his way outside and try to find shelter. The hatch to the ship creaked as Tom opened it. A gust of cold wind hit him like a slap in the face. He stepped outside, squinting against the blinding white landscape. The icy surface stretched endlessly in all directions, a flat, desolate wasteland. There were no signs of life, just snow and ice, and the constant, biting wind. Tom's boots crunched in the snow as he trudged forward, trying to stay calm. The wind was relentless, cutting through his suit like a knife. His breath came out in short, quick bursts, and he pulled the collar of his thermal suit up higher, desperately trying to keep the heat inside. His fingers were already starting to freeze, and he knew he couldn't stay out here for long. The landscape seemed to mock him, with its silent, frozen expanse. There was no shelter in sight, just more snow and ice. His mind raced with possibilities. Could he find a cave? A hidden underground base? Anything that might offer him a chance to survive. His heart pounded in his chest as he pushed forward, trying to focus on anything other than the freezing cold. He could already feel his toes growing numb, and his fingers were stiff, making it hard to grip the emergency survival pack. As he stumbled forward, his vision began to blur from the cold. He had no idea how much time had passed, but he knew he couldn't last much longer like this. He needed to find shelter, or he wouldn't survive the night. Suddenly, through the swirling snow, Tom spotted something that made him stop in his tracks. A shape, something moving in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a trick of the wind, but as he squinted, he saw it again. A figure, tall and cloaked in shadow, moving swiftly through the storm. Tom's heart skipped a beat. Was it a rescue team? A survivor from another crash? His pulse quickened as he tried to focus his eyes, but the figure was already disappearing into the swirling white. Without thinking, he staggered forward, calling out, "Hey, over here." His voice was nearly lost to the wind. The figure didn't stop. It was moving too fast, disappearing into the blizzard. Tom's hope surged for a moment, then faltered. His legs were beginning to give way beneath him, and his vision grew darker by the second. He needed to keep moving. He had to keep going. But with each step, the cold seemed to sink deeper into his bones. It would be so easy to just lie down in the snow, close his eyes, and let the cold take him. The thought lingered in his mind, but he pushed it away, clinging to the desperate hope that he would find someone, anyone, who could help him. And then, through the storm, he saw it again. The figure. This time, it didn't fade away. It was coming toward him. The wind howled like a wild animal, biting through Tom's thermal suit as he struggled to keep his footing in the snow. His mind was foggy, his body shaking with the cold, but he forced himself to keep moving. The figure in the distance was his only hope. Was it real, or just his mind playing tricks on him? He couldn't be sure, but he couldn't let it go. The figure was coming toward him, moving effortlessly through the snowstorm. Tom's heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. Could it be another human? A rescue team? Or was it something else entirely? With every step he took, the figure grew clearer. It wasn't like anything he'd seen before. It was tall, much taller than any human, and seemed to glide through the snow as though it wasn't even there. Its silhouette was strange, not quite human, with a fluidity that didn't match the harsh environment around it. Tom's breath came in short, ragged bursts. His body was screaming for warmth, but he couldn't stop. He had to get to the figure. It was his only chance. As he stumbled closer, he finally saw it more clearly. The being was dressed in flowing robes of shimmering blue and silver, and its skin appeared to glow softly, like the light of a distant star. Tom blinked in disbelief. This was no human. The being stopped when Tom was only a few feet away. It turned its head, and for the first time, he saw its face. It was not like anything he had ever imagined. The features were delicate and smooth, with deep, glowing eyes that seemed to pierce the blizzard around them. Its eyes were unlike anything human, wide, with a silvery light that seemed to shimmer, almost as though they were made of stardust. Tom's mouth went dry. He didn't know what to say. This wasn't a rescue team. This was an alien. The being tilted its head slightly, as if studying him. For a moment, there was a strange stillness between them, the only sound the howling wind. Then, without warning, it stepped forward, its long limbs graceful and fluid, moving with ease despite the harsh cold. Tom's knees buckled as exhaustion overtook him, and he collapsed into the snow. He tried to push himself back up, but his strength was gone. The cold was too much. His vision began to blur, and his thoughts became foggy. The alien knelt beside him, its hands hovering over his body. Tom could feel an odd warmth radiating from the being, a comforting heat that made his frozen skin tingle. It was unlike anything he had ever felt. Soft, soothing, and strangely familiar. It was like the warmth of the sun on a cold day, the kind of warmth that made everything feel safe. "Don't worry." The alien's voice echoed in his mind, soft but clear. It wasn't spoken aloud, but Tom could hear it as if it was coming from inside his own head. "You are not alone." Tom's eyes widened. The alien could speak directly to him in his mind. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, he just stared, too shocked to move. The alien seemed to sense his confusion. It placed a hand on his chest, and instantly, a warm energy surged through Tom's body. It wasn't like physical touch, but more like a comforting force that wrapped around him. The cold, which had been gnawing at him for so long, slowly began to ease. His stiff limbs started to loosen, and the fog in his mind cleared. Tom gasped, feeling the life returning to his body. He could feel the warmth spreading from where the alien touched him, filling him with a new sense of energy and vitality. "You are safe now," the alien spoke again, this time directly into his mind. "I will help you." Tom tried to sit up, his body still weak, but no longer numb with cold. His eyes remained locked on the alien, the strange being who had saved him from the brink of death. Who are you?" Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien's glowing eyes seemed to soften, and it gave a gentle nod. I am Zeri, it replied, again without speaking. A traveler from a far world. This place is not your home, but you will be safe. Tom didn't understand. A traveler? From another world? He blinked, his mind struggling to catch up with everything that was happening. Was this a dream? No, it couldn't be. He was wide awake, and this was all too real. Zeri's eyes softened even more, and Tom could sense a strange kindness in them. There was no malice, no danger, only a sense of peace and understanding. I will take you somewhere warm, Zeri said, her voice flowing gently through his mind. You need rest. The cold here is not kind to those who are not prepared. The storm howled relentlessly around them as Tom and Zeri moved through the blizzard. The wind howled like a wild animal, but it didn't seem to touch them. Every step Zeri took seemed to make the snow and wind part, as if the very air shifted around her. Tom, still feeling the remnants of exhaustion, leaned against her for support. It was hard to believe everything that had happened in the past few hours. One moment, he was alone, freezing in the snow, and the next, he was walking with an alien, a being from another world. He wanted to ask her so many questions, but the warmth spreading through his body made his mind foggy. It wasn't just the physical warmth, though. There was something deeply comforting about her presence, like a steady beacon in a world of chaos. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the entrance of a cave. At first, Tom wasn't sure what he was seeing. The opening was almost hidden by snow, shaped in a way that looked like it had been carved. Yet there were no signs of machinery or tools. It almost seemed natural, like the moon itself had shaped the cave over time. Zeri stepped inside, and Tom followed, his boots crunching on the cold ground. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the temperature shifted. It wasn't as cold inside as it had been outside, but it wasn't warm either. It was comfortable, almost like a spring day on Earth, cool, but not cold enough to freeze you. The walls of the cave were lined with glowing moss, casting an eerie, yet peaceful light across the rocky interior. It wasn't harsh like artificial lights. Instead, the glow was soft and calming, bathing the space in a gentle, almost magical atmosphere. Zeri led Tom deeper into the cave, where there was a small fire burning in the center. The fire was unlike any flame Tom had ever seen. It was greenish-blue, flickering without smoke or ash. The heat from it was soothing, and as they approached, Tom could feel the last remnants of the cold slipping away from his body. Sit, Zeri said softly, guiding Tom to a smooth rock near the fire. Tom sank down onto the rock, his muscles aching, but grateful for the warmth. He could feel his body coming back to life as the warmth from the fire and Zeri's presence filled him. His fingers, once stiff and frozen, started to regain some feeling. His breath came easier now, and his thoughts began to clear. Zeri sat across from him, her eyes still glowing with that silvery light. Her calm presence filled the space around them, and Tom felt strangely at ease in her company. Despite the fact that she was an alien from another world, there was nothing threatening about her. Her energy was welcoming, and Tom couldn't help but trust her, even though he didn't fully understand why. After a few moments of silence, Zeri spoke again, her voice echoing gently in his mind. "You are safe here," she said. "Rest. You've been through much." Tom nodded, but his curiosity was beginning to grow. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice still rough from the cold. "What is this place?" Zeri's eyes softened as she watched him. "This is my home," she answered simply. "A place far from your world. My people have lived here for many lifetimes." Tom leaned forward slightly, his eyes wide with wonder. "Your people? Are there others like you?" Zeri's smile was soft but sad. "Yes, there are others, though we are not many. Our kind has been spread across the stars for a long time, each of us living on different worlds, alone. But we are connected, in ways you cannot yet understand." Tom felt a pang of loneliness at her words. He had always felt that there was something different about humans, something that set them apart. But hearing Zuri's words made him realize that perhaps every species in the universe, no matter how far apart, shared that same sense of isolation. He wasn't alone in feeling alone. "Why did you help me?" Tom asked, his voice quieter now. "I mean, I'm just a human. I'm not from your world." Zuri tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes never leaving his. "Humans are different," she said, her voice both thoughtful and gentle. "You carry a warmth that is unlike any other species. It's not just physical warmth. It's something deeper, something in your spirit. I felt it when I found you." Tom blinked, surprised by her words. "What do you mean?" The fire crackled softly, casting shadows against the walls of the cave. Tom sat close to it, feeling the warmth soak into his bones. Zuri sat across from him, her glowing eyes still fixed on him, watching him with an intensity that made him feel as though she could see right through him. The silence between them was comforting, but Tom couldn't help the questions that kept bubbling up in his mind. He glanced at Zuri, who had yet to speak, her calm presence filling the space between them. He felt a strange sense of peace in her company, but a part of him still wanted answers. He needed to know more about the alien who had saved him from certain death. "You said that humans are different," Tom said, breaking the silence. "What did you mean by that? How are we different from your people, or from others?" Zuri's gaze softened, and she took a deep breath. "Humans have something that many other species do not, an emotional warmth that goes beyond physical heat. You are able to feel deeply, to connect with each other in ways that are foreign to most other beings. It is what makes you special." Tom frowned, still unsure what she meant. "But I don't feel that different. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not some kind of superhuman or anything." Zuri's eyes flickered with a hint of a smile. "That is because you are human. Your kind does not often notice the power of your own warmth, but it is there, in your hearts. It is what drives you to create, to protect, and to love. Other species, though they may be intelligent, often lack that deep emotional connection." Tom leaned back, trying to understand. He had never thought of humans that way before. To him, emotions were just part of life. Everyone felt anger, happiness, or sadness. But Zuri spoke of it like it was something more, something important. "So, you're saying our emotions make us different from other species?" Tom asked, still puzzled. Zuri nodded slowly. "Yes. Other species may be strong, or quick, or intelligent. But humans have something that no other species can replicate. Your emotions, your passion, give you strength. It allows you to endure, to fight for what you believe in, and to protect those you care for. It's not just physical heat, it's a warmth that comes from within." Tom thought about her words for a moment. He had always known that humans were emotional creatures, but he had never considered that it might be something unique. He looked at Zuri, trying to understand. She was so calm, so composed. It was hard to imagine that a being like her could feel the same way. Zuri must have sensed his confusion, because she spoke again. "I can feel it, Tom. Your warmth. It's different from anything I have ever encountered. It's like a fire burning deep inside you." Tom shook his head, still not fully understanding. "But you don't seem emotional. You're so calm, so in control." Zuri's expression softened, her glowing eyes studying him with quiet curiosity. "Not all species show their emotions in the same way. My kind has learned to control our feelings over many lifetimes, but even we are not immune to the power of connection, the power of emotion. We feel deeply, just as you do. But we have learned to temper it, to keep it contained." Tom nodded slowly. He could understand that. After all, everyone controlled their emotions differently. But the way Zuri spoke about it, it was as if she was describing something he had never truly thought about before. "So you're saying that my emotions, my warmth, are stronger than anything else in the universe?" he asked, feeling both amazed and humbled. Zuri didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the fire, her gaze distant for a moment, as if deep in thought. When she finally spoke, Her voice was quieter, almost as though she was sharing something deeply personal. There are many species in the universe, Tom. Many beings that are far older and wiser than your kind. But none of them have what you have. None of them have the warmth that radiates from your hearts, the way you can form bonds with each other and with the world around you. Tom's chest swelled with a mixture of pride and wonder. He had always known that humans were capable of great things, but he had never thought about it in this way. Never realized that something as simple as emotion could make them so unique. "But why me?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Why did you choose to help me? I'm just one man. I don't have any special abilities. I'm not even a soldier or a hero." Tom woke to the soft glow of the fire, its blue flames dancing in the cave. The warmth from the fire was comforting, but he could feel something else in the air. Something unspoken. He had slept through the night. He could tell by the dim light filtering through the cave entrance. Zari was sitting across from him, as calm as ever, her glowing eyes fixed on him with a quiet intensity. For a moment, Tom wasn't sure if he had dreamed everything that had happened since he had collapsed in the snow. The warmth Zari had shared with him, her words about human warmth, and how she had saved him. It all felt surreal. But no, he remembered the cold, the fire, the feeling of safety that had settled in his chest when he'd been near her. He sat up slowly, stretching his stiff muscles, and looked around the cave. The glowing moss on the walls continued to shimmer softly, giving the space an almost magical quality. The fire crackled, filling the silence between them, and Tom realized he still had so many questions. So much about Zari, her world, and her people remained a mystery. Zari seemed to sense his curiosity. Without speaking, she rose to her feet and gestured for Tom to follow her. There was a sense of purpose in her movements, and Tom couldn't help but feel a pull toward her, a desire to understand more. As they walked deeper into the cave, Tom noticed that the walls of the cave seemed to shift, almost as if the space was changing. The rocks were smooth, shaped by something other than nature, and they were covered in the same glowing moss that filled the rest of the cave. It almost felt like they were walking through a living structure. Tom wondered if the cave itself had a purpose, if it was more than just a shelter. They came to a large, open space within the cave. In the center was an intricate pattern etched into the floor, shapes that Tom didn't recognize. It almost looked like a map, but it was unlike anything he had ever seen. Lines crossed each other in a complex web, and there were symbols scattered throughout the pattern. It made Tom's head spin just looking at it. Zari stopped at the edge of the pattern and turned to him. "This is a map," she said, her voice echoing softly in his mind. "A map of many worlds, not just yours." Tom stared at the design, confused. "A map of many worlds? You mean this is how you travel between worlds?" Zari nodded. "Yes, my people have found ways to travel across the stars. Not with ships like yours, but with something far more ancient. The path is hidden, but those who understand can follow it." Tom felt his heart race. "You can travel between worlds just like that?" His voice was filled with awe. The idea of being able to travel to other planets, to explore the stars, he had always dreamed of it, but he never imagined it was possible. Zari smiled, sensing his excitement. "It is not as simple as it seems. The path is difficult, and many who seek it never find it. But it is there, and I can show you." Tom's mind raced. What did she mean by showing him? Was she asking him to travel with her? To leave everything behind and journey into the unknown? He wasn't sure if he was ready for something like that. He was just an ordinary guy. He had no special training, no skills beyond what he had learned to survive on Earth. But Zari was offering him something incredible. "Why me?" he asked, his voice quiet but filled with wonder. "Why do you want to show me this path?" Zari's eyes softened, and she took a step closer to him. "Because I see the fire in you, Tom. Your kind has something no other species has. That warmth, your emotions, your drive to survive. It is something I believe can help guide you on this path. It is not just about traveling between worlds. It is about discovering what lies beyond your understanding. And I think you are ready." Tom's heart raced, a mixture of excitement and fear bubbling up inside him. Was he ready for this? Could he really leave everything behind and follow an alien into the stars? He had no idea where this path would lead, but the thought of it, the adventure, the possibility of seeing the universe, filled him with a sense of wonder he hadn't felt in years. "I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted, his voice quieter now. "I'm just a man. I don't have the skills for something like this." Zeri placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. "You have more than you realize. Your warmth, your emotions, they are the key, and I will guide you." The fire crackled in the cave, sending shadows dancing across the walls. Tom sat close to it, his mind racing with thoughts of the unknown. Zeri sat across from him, as calm and collected as ever, her glowing eyes studying him with quiet intensity. After their conversation, Tom felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Zeri had said she would show him the path to other worlds, but he wasn't sure what that truly meant. Could he really leave Earth behind and explore the stars? He wasn't a scientist or an adventurer. He was just an ordinary man, but the thought of discovering the unknown, of traveling to new places, was both thrilling and terrifying. He had agreed to go with her. The decision felt right, even though he had no idea what lay ahead. Zeri had said he had something special inside him, something that would help him on this journey. It wasn't just his physical survival skills that made him different. It was his emotions, his warmth, his connection to the world around him. But what did that truly mean? And how would it help him travel between worlds? As if reading his thoughts, Zeri spoke, her voice as calm as ever. "Are you ready, Tom?" she asked, her eyes locking onto his. "The path is not an easy one, but it is the only way forward." Tom swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. He was ready, he told himself. The fear in his chest was still there, but it was slowly being replaced by something else. A sense of purpose, a desire to see what lay beyond the stars. "I think so," Tom replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. "I'm ready." Zeri stood up, and Tom followed her to the edge of the cave. The cold air from outside sent a chill through him, but it was nothing compared to the freezing winds he had faced when he had first arrived on this moon. The path ahead, whatever it was sure to be difficult, but he was no longer afraid. Not when Zeri was with him. "We must travel through the mountains," Zeri said, glancing at him. "It is there where the path begins. It will take us to the next phase of your journey." Tom nodded, but his curiosity couldn't be contained. "How will we find the path?" he asked. "Is it hidden?" Zeri smiled, the glow in her eyes softening. "Yes, the path is hidden. Only those who understand the way can see it. But don't worry, Tom. I will guide you." With that, Zeri turned and led the way into the snowstorm once more. Tom followed closely behind, his breath visible in the frigid air. The storm howled around them, but it didn't seem to touch them. As they moved forward, it felt as though the wind parted before them, as if the storm itself was making way for Zeri and Tom to pass. After a few hours of walking through the snow-covered terrain, they reached the base of a massive mountain range. The towering peaks rose up into the sky, their tops hidden by thick clouds. The mountains seemed to stretch endlessly, a vast, intimidating wall of rock and ice. Tom felt a twinge of doubt in his chest, but Zeri's steady presence reassured him. "Where do we go from here?" Tom asked, his voice quiet against the roar of the wind. Zeri turned to face him, her expression calm. "The path lies ahead, Tom. Follow me." Tom nodded, trying to steady his nerves. He wasn't sure how Zeri could see the path, but he trusted her. She had guided him through the storm once before. He had to trust her now. They began their ascent, climbing up the rocky slopes of the mountain. The snow was deep, and the wind whipped fiercely, but Zeri moved with ease, as though she had walked these mountains 1,000 times. Tom struggled to keep up, his body aching from the cold and exhaustion, but he kept going. The fire inside him, the warmth Zeri had spoken of, was still there, fueling him forward. After a long climb, they reached a narrow pass between two cliffs. The wind howled through the gap, and the air felt thinner, colder. Zeri paused and turned to Tom, her glowing eyes bright against the grayness of the mountains. "This is the place," she said, her voice low but clear. "The path begins here." Tom looked around, confused. The path was invisible to him. All he saw was a narrow, wind-swept gap between the cliffs. But Zeri's eyes were focused on something beyond the rocks. She reached out, her fingers tracing a symbol in the air. And for a moment, Tom felt a strange sensation. A shift in the air, like something had opened before them. Suddenly, the space between the cliffs seemed to shimmer, and Tom's eyes widened in disbelief. A glowing trail appeared, winding its way up the mountain and beyond, disappearing into the mist. It was faint at first, like a soft light in the distance, but it grew brighter as they stepped closer. Zeri smiled. "This is the path," she said softly. "The path that will take us where we need to go. All you must do is follow." Tom's heart raced as he walked behind Zeri, following the glowing path that had appeared before them. The light was faint at first, barely visible in the shadow of the towering cliffs, but as he stepped forward, the glow grew brighter, illuminating the rocky terrain around him. The wind still howled between the mountains, but the light from the path seemed to protect them, creating a calm bubble in the midst of the storm. Zeri walked with a quiet confidence, her steps sure and steady. Tom couldn't help but admire her. She moved with ease, as though she knew this path better than anyone, and yet she never once glanced back at him. She trusted him to follow. She trusted him to keep going. Tom glanced down at his boots as he trudged through the snow, his breath coming out in clouds of mist. His legs ached from the climb, and his body was cold from the harsh winds. But he couldn't stop now. Zeri had shown him the way, and he couldn't let her down. The further they went, the brighter the path became. The snow around them seemed to grow thicker, but the light from the trail held strong, leading them forward. Tom didn't know how long they had been walking, hours, maybe even days. Time seemed to blur here in this strange, frozen world, and everything felt different from anything he had ever known. Suddenly, the path curved sharply, and the ground beneath them began to change. The snow gave way to smooth stone, and the air grew even colder. Tom's breath became visible in the air, and he could see the faint mist rising from the rocks as they stepped onto the stone surface. "We are almost there," Zeri said, her voice calm but filled with an energy that made Tom's heart beat faster. "The path will reveal what lies ahead soon." Tom nodded, though he wasn't sure what to expect. He had no idea what this journey would bring, but he had already come so far. There was no turning back now. He had to see this through, no matter how strange or terrifying it might become. They continued forward, and soon the stone beneath their feet began to glow with a faint blue light, similar to the light of the path they had been following. Tom glanced around, wondering if this was the place Zeri had spoken of, the place where the path would reveal something new. And then, as if responding to his thoughts, the stone in front of them shifted. A large door, carved into the rock itself, appeared before them, its surface glowing with the same faint blue light. The door seemed to pulse with energy, as though it were alive, waiting for them to step through. Zeri stopped before the door, and for the first time since they had started their journey, she turned to face Tom. Her eyes glowed with a soft, almost reassuring light. "This is it," she said quietly. "We have reached the threshold. The door will open, but only if you are ready." Tom stood still, his heart pounding in his chest. Was he ready? Ready for what? He had followed Zeri this far, but now, standing before the glowing door, he felt the weight of what they were about to do settle heavily on his shoulders. "I don't know what's on the other side," Tom admitted, his voice quiet. "I don't know if I'm ready." Zeri smiled, a soft and knowing expression that seemed to reach deep into his heart. "You have already shown your strength, Tom. The path you have walked, the fire inside you, it has brought you here. Whatever lies beyond this door, you are ready." Tom swallowed hard, the words sinking in. He had come so far, and yet this moment felt like the beginning of something even bigger. He wasn't sure what he would find on the other side, but Zeri was right. He had made it this far. He had to keep going. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. The door in front of him shimmered and seemed to fade into the rock, as though it had never been there at all. The glowing stone beneath his feet gave way to a new kind of light, and the air felt charged with an energy that he couldn't quite explain. As he crossed the threshold, he felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The temperature around him dropped even lower, and he shivered in the cold. But there was something else, something strange. A sense of weightlessness, as though he was no longer bound by the laws of gravity. Tom looked around, his eyes widening. They had stepped into a new world entirely. Before him stretched a vast, open expanse, an endless landscape filled with strange, glowing plants and enormous, otherworldly structures. The sky above them was a deep shade of purple, filled with swirling clouds and distant stars. The ground beneath their feet was a soft, silver substance that shimmered with an iridescent glow. Everything seemed alien, unfamiliar, and yet beautiful. Tom stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder as he took in the strange, alien landscape that stretched out before him. The world was unlike anything he had ever seen. The sky above was a deep purple, swirling with distant clouds and bright stars. The air felt fresh, yet tinged with an unfamiliar energy that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Zeri walked beside him, her glowing presence like a guiding light in the strange new world. She had told him that this place was where his journey truly began, but Tom couldn't help but feel small and insignificant in the face of such an immense, unknown world. There were towering structures in the distance, some of which appeared to float above the ground, defying the laws of gravity. The plants around them glowed softly, casting a gentle light that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. As they continued walking, Tom couldn't help but wonder how he had ended up here. Only a short time ago, he had been on Earth, fighting to survive in a snowstorm. Now, he was standing in a place that felt like something out of a dream. But this was real, every part of it. The cool air, the glowing plants, the strange structures, all of it was real. "This world," Tom whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's incredible." Zeri turned to him, her glowing eyes soft and full of understanding. "It is a place beyond your world, Tom. A place where the laws of nature do not work as you know them. Here, we are free from the limitations of your reality. But that does not mean there are no rules. The path we are on is one that requires understanding and respect." Tom nodded, taking in her words. He still had so much to learn, so many questions to ask. But for now, all he could do was keep moving forward. The path before them was uncertain, and there was no way of knowing what challenges lay ahead. But he trusted Zeri. She had brought him this far, and he knew that she would guide him through whatever came next. As they walked deeper into the strange landscape, they came across a series of massive structures, their forms both elegant and imposing. Some looked like giant arches, while others were tall, narrow spires that reached high into the sky. The materials they were made from seemed to shimmer and change color as they moved closer, creating an ever-changing visual display. "These are the cities of my people," Zeri explained, her voice filled with a quiet pride. "They are not made by machines, but by the energy that flows through this world. My people understand how to use this energy, to shape it and guide it." Tom looked at the structures in awe. He had never seen anything like them before. They didn't look like buildings at all. They seemed more like living organisms, growing and changing with the flow of energy around them. "But how?" Tom asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. "How do your people do this? How do you shape energy like that? Zeri smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her expression. It is not something that can be easily explained, Tom. It is a skill passed down through generations. My people have learned to tap into the very essence of this world, to connect with it on a level that most beings cannot comprehend. But it is not without its cost. There are dangers here, just as there are in your world. Everything comes with a price. Tom's mind raced with the implications of what Zeri had just said. If the people here could shape energy and create such incredible structures, what else could they do? What other secrets did this world hold? They continued walking through the city, passing strange creatures that seemed to blend into the landscape. Some of them looked like giant insects, while others resembled floating orbs of light. Tom's eyes darted around, trying to take it all in. It was overwhelming, yet beautiful. It felt like a dream, but everything around him was so vivid and real. Eventually, they came to a large plaza at the center of the city. In the middle stood a massive stone monument, its surface covered in symbols that Tom didn't recognize. It seemed ancient, as though it had been there for centuries, maybe even longer. "This is the Heartstone," Zeri said, her voice reverberating with reverence. "It is the source of the energy that powers this world. It is a living stone, connected to the very core of this place. It holds the knowledge of my people, and it is here that we come to seek answers." Tom stepped closer to the monument, feeling a strange pull in the pit of his stomach. He didn't know what it was, but something about the Heartstone seemed to call to him. It was as if it were alive, waiting for him to come closer. Zeri noticed his hesitation and smiled. "It is not for everyone to touch," she explained. "Only those who are ready to receive its knowledge. But I believe you are close, Tom. You have already taken the first steps. Now, you must listen." Tom's fingers brushed the surface of the Heartstone. The moment they made contact, a wave of energy surged through him, unlike anything he had ever felt before. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. His body tingled with a strange warmth, as though the stone itself was alive, breathing with him. Zeri stood silently by his side, her gaze soft and patient, as if she had seen this before, as though she knew exactly what was happening to him. The world around him began to shift. The plaza, the strange city, the towering structures, they all seemed to fade, replaced by a swirling sea of colors and shapes. Tom felt as though he was floating in the very fabric of the universe itself, surrounded by a vast expanse of stars, energy, and knowledge. It was like being part of something much bigger than himself, a part of the universe itself. Whispers filled his mind, faint at first, then growing clearer. Words that weren't words, thoughts that weren't his own. They came from the Heartstone, from the world itself. Images flashed before his eyes, glimpses of ancient cities, strange creatures, and powerful energies. He saw the history of Zeri's people, their rise and fall, their connection to the stars, and their deep understanding of the energy that flowed through this world. As the images continued, Tom began to understand. This was not just a place of power, it was a place of knowledge. The Heartstone held the answers to everything, to the mysteries of the universe, to the nature of energy itself, to the reason why he had been brought here. The more he allowed himself to absorb the knowledge, the more his mind expanded. He saw the endless cycles of time, the ebb and flow of creation and destruction. He saw beings like Zeri, people who had learned to live in harmony with the energy of their world, using it to shape reality itself. But he also saw the dangers. The Heartstone was not without its cost. There were those who had tried to control the energy, to use it for power and domination. Some had succeeded for a time, but their greed had led to their downfall. The balance of the world had been shattered, and the energy that had once flowed freely was now fragile, threatened by forces beyond anyone's control. Tom felt a deep sadness in his chest as the visions continued. This world, so full of potential, was in danger, and he somehow had been brought here to play a part in its fate. The images slowed, the colors fading back into the plaza as the wave of energy receded. Tom blinked, his mind spinning from everything he had just experienced. He took a deep breath, feeling as though he had just awoken from a long, vivid dream. He looked at Zuri, his heart pounding in his chest. What was that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Zuri's eyes were soft with understanding. "That was the Heartstone, showing you the truth of this world. The knowledge it holds is vast, but it is not always easy to understand. What you saw, Tom, was the history of my people and the dangers that now threaten us." Tom's mind raced with the new information. He had learned so much in just a few moments, but there was still so much he didn't understand. "What do I do with this knowledge?" he asked. "How can I help?" Zuri stepped closer, her voice steady but full of conviction. "You have already begun, Tom. Your warmth, your connection to this world, it is the key. The Heartstone has shown you what is needed. You must restore the balance, help guide this world back to harmony before it is too late." Tom felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had come so far, but now the true responsibility of his journey had become clear. This wasn't just about exploring the unknown. This was about saving a world on the brink of destruction. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted. "I'm just an ordinary man." Zuri smiled, her expression full of encouragement. "That is the very reason you are here, Tom. You are not bound by the same limitations as my people. You are able to see things with fresh eyes, with a heart full of warmth. You have the power to restore the balance, to heal what has been broken." Tom looked at the Heartstone once more, its glowing surface now calm and still. He didn't know exactly how he was going to do it, but he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't do it alone. "I'll need help," he said, his voice steady now. "From you, from your people, from everyone who still believes in this world." Zuri nodded, her eyes filled with pride. "And you will have it, Tom. You are not alone. Together, we will bring the balance back." For the first time since he had arrived in this strange world, Tom felt a true sense of purpose. The journey was far from over, but now he understood what he had to do. The knowledge of the Heartstone had given him the strength to continue, and with Zuri by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. He looked out over the vast landscape, the alien city and the glowing plants, his heart filled with hope. The journey had begun, and though the road ahead would be difficult, he was ready. He would fight for this world, for its future, and for everything he had learned along the way. Together, they would restore the balance.